What's good, Patreons? I don't know if I ever make this video for YouTube. So if you ever watching this on YouTube, it's probably been on Patreon for a long time. um, but let's go through it, man. Morgan Freeman. Morgan. What could we say about Morgan Freeman that hasn't already been said about him? You know, when you think of greatness, you think of Morgan Freeman. You think of all the work he's done in Hollywood. You think of all the movie roles. But you don't think about is the dark side of the man. Now, many of you don't remember him from the electric company that used to come on PBS. You know, that's where he got his start. And he really didn't like playing that role. He didn't really like being on the show. He got into it a lot with staff. He would go out, smoke a cigarette, and try to just say, hey, it's work. Let's get through it. It was only when he did a show called Street Smart, a film with Christopher Reeve interviewing him as a pimp. This got rave reviews, standout performance by Morgan Freeman. Now, for us, it was just one project. But for Morgan Freeman, this was opening a lot of doors for him, where his earlier work was pretty much, you know, non, what they would call a non-factor. Now, Morgan was an avid reader, always doing theater, loved theater, and had a voice that was unique. It was powerful but clear, heavy but clear. Had its own drawl to it. But at the same time, while he's doing these performances, he's drinking, he's smoking, not a concern. Now, once he played this street hustler in that Christopher Reeve movie, and then he did Clean and Sober with Michael Keaton, that wasn't a really blockbuster hit, but Clean and Sober opened up a lot of doors for him. So when Lean on Me came around, that really was a standout starring performance for him, which opened doors to the movie Glory and Driving Miss Daisy, which black people gave him a lot of hard time and slack over Driving Miss Daisy after playing Joe Clark. But this was Morgan Freeman. He has appeared in more films than any man living today. Yep, Morgan Freeman. He stayed busy. He was either voice acting or acting in a lot of these films. Now, the thing that gets me is people never knew Morgan Freeman is a very powerful man. in the industry. People don't think that because he stays quiet. He normally stays out of sight, but he's a powerful man. And what people don't really understand is that him and his best friend, Danny Glover, one of his close friends, they are synonymous with doing what they feel is right. You would think Morgan Freeman is hanging out with all the brothers 24/7, and he's not that. You know, Morgan Freeman is more. It's more different than what you would probably think he would be. He hangs out mostly with his lawyer, and they both live in Mississippi. They don't stay that far away from each other. Morgan Freeman owns probably the second largest amount of land in Mississippi, period. Um, owns a large piece of land in Mississippi. Regardless of what they say his net worth is, he has a lot of money. But he also has a lot of power. And while he first was starting out acting, he was married to his wife, Jeanette Bradshaw. And she got to see that Morgan was not the guy she needs to be married to. Arguing, fighting, accusations of cheating. And of course, they split. Phil, they married too soon. So they divorced after about 13 years of marriage. Then he finds Myrna. And they started, dating and eventually married. Now, once he married Myrna or whatever, um, things started to change as she started to see Morgan is a control freak. He likes things done his way and his way only. There was never any inklings to like say, oh, well, we're going to go this route because this is what this person wants or that's what that person's want. They didn't care. No one cared. So as Morgan went along, his violent outbursts is something that no one ever reported on. Grabbing his wife by the throat, threatening, throwing things, throwing tantrums. This was overlooked, never reported, blown by. Financial abuse, verbal abuse, all of these things were coming to the table. So, when Lean on Me comes out, and then you do Driving Miss Daisy in the same year, and you get your Academy Award nomination for it, that opened up the doors for him. And then when Clint Eastwood come and does The Unforgiven, Morgan Freeman's on the top of the list in 92. So his second wife came right before things started to blow up and take off for him. Now he isn't this violent man anymore. who used to get drunk, smoke cigarettes heavily. Now he smokes occasionally, but he's gotten himself under control because he's not as angry anymore. He's got success. He's busy. He's working. So while he's making all of these moves and he's having all of this success, his ex-wife said that we need to have a talk. And the conversation was about their situation that they had prior. And said, we need to talk about, our situation here, as his wife, Jeanette, had a daughter that's not related to Morgan Freeman, but was considered his daughter. That was his stepdaughter. So what happened is his stepdaughter had a child, and the child, that's why she reached out to Morgan to take care and raise the child, named Dina after her mother, Adina Hines. So Adina Hines was adopted by Morgan Freeman and his wife, Myrna, so that they can raise her. So the only person she knew around her was Morgan Freeman. Morgan has his daughter, Morgana, that he took to the Academy Awards, and when he was first nominated, took his daughter, Morgana, to the awards with him. And the thing about Morgan Freeman is he got older in age, but his mind, and he never wanted to get old and live like an old man. So things was crazy. It was completely crazy. Now, Morgan was one of the most powerful men in Hollywood. And his attorney, who happened to be very powerful in the state of Mississippi, cleans up a lot of Morgan's messes. This man has the A-list of A-lists of attorneys, top notch. After raising his granddaughter for all of these years, there was a brief separation between Morgan Freeman and his second wife, as catches she allegedly catches Morgan basically having sex with his then adopted granddaughter. Dina, which causes her to go hysterical and going off. Morgan admits to this to her, allegedly. He admits that he was doing this, but felt he was in the right. God damn it. Listen, I'm not going to explain myself to you. I don't have to. I've raised it. And if anybody's going to take care of it, it's going to be me. It's only with love and care. So Morgan didn't care about any of the bad press. That didn't matter to him. You can forget that. He didn't care what it looked like. Morgan was happy. The problem with Morgan is he was going through what him and Harrison Ford was doing at the same time, was going through a midlife crisis. But they act like they weren't. They didn't want to grow up. The older Morgan got, the younger he wanted to be. He went back to drinking heavy, smoking. Then he gets into a car accident while he was out with Bill Luckett, his lawyer, who he hangs out with all the time. They're at his house, and Luckett invites this lady to come over to the house. Now, she's there to hook up with Morgan Freeman. That's her job. So Freeman hits Luckett up like, yo, I'm in the mood tonight. Put the party together at your house. I'll come down there, drive to your house, and then I'll hang out there. And you go through the list. Oh, yeah, the one you showed me the picture of? Yes, her. Make sure she's there. Yeah, I'm going to be over there. I'm going to party, then I'll take her home. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. So Morgan is more than willing and more than ready to move forward in this situation. Like, absolutely move forward. Then he gets into this car accident on the way home. He got everything going. She meets him, this Darius Meyer lady. She's like, oh my gosh. So she was at the Golf and Country Club over there by Luckett. You know, that's pretty much just exclusively only. And he was the perfect gentleman and said, would you like to spend the evening at one of my estates and on my property? You can stay at one of the houses there so you can have an easier drive and transition to work in the morning. So she was like, oh, this is great. So Morgan was like, no, don't worry, I'll drive. So he starts driving her car. But Morgan was having a good time at the golf course and he was drinking. It was kind of dark on the road. He only lives 40 miles away to his property. You know, they were in Clarksdale, Mississippi, and they had to get to Charleston. So Morgan was drinking, got out of control, and totaled the car to the fact that she was stuck in the tree. They went off the road, hit a tree, and they had to get somebody to cut a tree down to get her out because she was pent in the car. Morgan Freeman had to go in, get his arm and shoulder, get surgery done on his arm and shoulder. And once that was done, good people, let me tell you this. After that was done, would you know this man still was in denial of the whole situation? You ain't see Morgan Freeman go to jail. You didn't see Morgan Freeman get a DUI. That's power. You didn't see him get a mug shot. You didn't see him get arrested. That's power. Now, I told you, Morgan Freeman don't hang around the people you think he do. Him or Danny Glover. They're all part of this whole organization where they hang out with some of the most powerful people who are not our complexion. Morgan's granddaughter wants to be a star. And Morgan is having very inappropriate type of, you know, like dinners, and he's overly loving to Dina. The wife and Morgan got back together briefly. After about a year and a half apart, she got back with Morgan Freeman. As he promised, he wasn't going to have anything to do with Dina in that way ever again. He had stopped. Then it was over for good when she found out he had lied and that it was still going on. He just wanted to buy her silence. He had no intentions of stopping. So she left. Now, Morgan Freeman is what you would call a political activist for Black History Month. He doesn't want a Black History Month. He don't want Black history is American history. So he wants to be called an American. We don't call it White History Month. He was on 60 Minutes with Mike Wallace and says, I'm not going to call you a white man if you stop calling me a black man. Don't want to be labeled as that. He wanted the proposal to change the Mississippi state flag. He wanted to take down all of these things, the Tea Party and everything else. He wanted to help form aid for Grenada, for Hurricane Ivan, all these different type of political things he was involved in. Then Dina, his girl, his granddaughter, he's been raising. It all hit a big snag then because this is the daughter he's been raising all this time. And guess what? She is in love. And now, with the attention on this inappropriate relationship flowing around, Morgan had to dial it back because it's starting to look bad on his image and everything else. And then she venomously denied it. Morgan venomously denied it. Said this is ridiculous rumors and lies. But now, how did they get this information? Morgan said it's the media. They want to tear me apart. Now, as hmm, now, no one knows who's the original father of Dina Himes. Like, we knew the daughter that he adopted gotten pregnant, and this was his granddaughter. But no one knew who the father really was. So, once they had this daughter, when she was 3 years old, her and her couple separated or whatever. And so she was asked to take, you know, control of what went on, right? So now that she's raised her, the media's all on his back, and everything is spiraling out of control for Morgan Freeman. All you could see and determine in this situation is that, okay, we have a big situation here. Now that she's got this boyfriend that she's dating, she's not really connected to Morgan that much. And Morgan Freeman allegedly was telling her how much he loved her, his granddaughter, to the point that he didn't care what people had to say anymore. He was willing to marry her, or at least proposition that. He didn't care anymore what society had to say. And Morgan Freeman went crazy and denied this. Said, this is defamation, fabrication to sell newspapers. I love my step granddaughter like she was my own flesh and blood. So during the separation, where the wife was clearly headed for the divorce, Morgan Freeman and Dina clarified to the public about their relationship to clarify the claims being an inappropriate bond. Morgan felt he was betrayed by his ex-wife, but she hadn't went public. It was just leaked out there to the public. He always felt it was her that did it. And she did it so that Morgan would stop. Because this messes her up in the situation. See, Morgana and Alfonso Freeman, the brothers and sisters, they're part of the American entertainment industry as well. You know, Dina, she was not an actor or a singer. You know, she wanted to serve, and like perform and do like makeup, hairstyles, and all of those different things. So all of a sudden, like I said, she falls in love. And everybody's like, oh, wait a minute. So now that he's in love with what's going on with this situation, she didn't fell in love. Where's that going to leave Morgan Freeman? So his involvement got a little bit crazy because he got more possessive, wanting to know more about the relationship, what had happened in the relationship, as her young boyfriend, you know, that Morgan Freeman was definitely keeping an eye on. And even in her text, she was talking about she was dealing with an old man who was so attached to her life as she was getting older, and she's grown. She's in her 30s. She's pulling away from Morgan's grip. And he wasn't okay with that. Very much so, not okay with it. Now, Morgan and his step granddaughter, who he carried with him everywhere. She was his date at the 2005 Golden Globe Awards. And people was like, I don't know about this. This does not look right. And she wanted to be an actress. She wanted to be in Hollywood. She wanted to be on that stage and perform. And she was going to take classes and she wanted to go do hair and makeup. She was full of ambition and joy. But the person she was in love with was a young kid who didn't know what he wanted to do with his life, but definitely was somebody who was influential, knowing that he was dating somebody who was linked to someone who was rich and had money. And he was somebody who was just out there. She was young, in love, and now she's seeing something that many people didn't understand. He was also bitter. Morgan Freeman did not like him. He had the guy vetted, found out he was a rap artist or a singer, whatever. He smoked a lot of pot, um, did a lot of drugs that he denied he did many times. Like, I don't do these drugs and I don't do these things. But Dina, at the time, was not speaking to Morgan Freeman. She had just 2 weeks prior had ignored a lot of his messages, text messages or anything. So after all of this was done and everything was pushed and thrown to the side, her boyfriend comes there one night outside of her house and just repeatedly is stabbing her. She's screaming his name as he continuously stabs her again, again, and again. She screams his name, Lamar, loud. They call 911, and people tried to help and go out there and pull him off, and he's continuously stabbing her. He stabbed her over 25 times, and she died. Very unfortunate. But the most unfortunate part about it was this guy said he never did PPC or whatever, never done it before, and think he was drugged. At PCP, whatever, yeah, he never had it before. That's what he claims. And that someone laced it with him, a guy he don't know. And he thought he saw devils. And he was doing it in the name of Jesus Christ, was trying to eliminate the devils that was around her. So he was trying to save her by killing the devils that he saw. When he looked at her, he saw all the demons. He was trying to execute them. Morgan Freeman didn't sound as broken up as many would thought when this tragic death happened. He just put out a statement saying, well, people now won't know how great she was. You know, and it was like very like, man, you know, like that's gone now and people won't get to see it. You know, we heard. It was kind of like orchestrated. Wasn't really, you know. What did he say? The world would never know her artistry and talent and how much she had to offer. Just not something you would say when your granddaughter has lost her life. His final thrust was into the heart. He was there to kill. Whether he was on drugs or not, his intent was to kill her. Did someone pay him to do it? Did someone provoke him to do it? Or possess him to do it? Word around the campfire is Adina was going to tell her story. And according to the PCP man, she had told him about the affair, about Morgan Freeman and their relationship, and that they definitely had a relationship. But no one's listening to him because he's a PCP addict in jail who's probably going to say anything to get money. So they're not worried about him. He's gone for life. And Adina, well, she's not going to be able to put out any stories, any books, anything about anything. So, when you mess with powerful people, powerful things happen. So let that sink in. So that's the Morgan Freeman none of y'all would ever hear about. So, is it live? Is it Memorex? We don't know. One thing we do know is, woo! Don't mess with Morgan Freeman. He is not to be played with. Did you know they tried to Me Too him? You don't remember that? That was a couple years ago. Remember they was catching everybody with the Me Too stuff? They was like, and somebody thought it was a good idea to play with Morgan Freeman like that? What was that, like 2018, 19, something like that? And they was like, 8 women accused Morgan Freeman. He was being overly flirtatious, making inappropriate comments. He was on the set of some movies. Man, Morgan Freeman has came out and attacked them. Anyone who knows me that has worked with me knows I am not someone who would intentionally offend or knowingly make anyone feel uneasy. I apologize to anyone who felt uncomfortable or disrespected. That's never my intent. Now, don't start with me. Never was a victim. No, stop. So, man, no, you're not going to do this to me. Cut it out. Like Morgan has definitely venomously came out. The Screen Actors Guild did not do anything against Morgan Freeman. Matter of fact, Freeman's attorneys demanded that CNN retract the story. And you know what happened? They left Morgan Freeman the F alone. That's power.